Coleman, you want to defer again?
Sure.
Oh, I was hoping, but it's hard to say what I want to say, but I am not settled in my mind about the issue of drones. And I think it is, it's partly because I think of the drone not as an extension or an adaptation of our usual warring, but as an extension of our historical espionage. And it's only that we couldn't see what the CIA was doing before, but now we can see it when it's in the form of a drone that's actually visible in the sky someplace. As a born and bred pacifist, I've had to really struggle with coming to wonder whether what the CIA is supposed to have been doing might be better than the wars. And I had to figure that out when I went to Iraq at the beginning of the war there to say, wait, stop. If the CIA had done its thing properly, from my point of view, or if there had been drones available at that time, from my uneducated point of view, could we have offed Saddam Hussein and his henchmen instead of destroying that whole country and killing all of those people? Is drone warfare less damaging and expensive than the kind of warfare we have been practicing in the past? And if so, and we have been lifelong members of the peace movement, isn't there some way we should be saying, at least this isn't so bad as what we were doing before?
I think it's an excellent question. I don't think it's a simple, obvious no. But I think it's important to have all the facts, right? I mean, Saddam Hussein offered to leave the country. I mean, it was possible to have no war. If the goal was to get him out of power, if the goal was actually literally to off him, then, you know, maybe we had to have some kind of war. But if the goal was to get him out of power, that was on the table. That was available and ready. So you do not, the choice is not always, if ever, between a war and a better war, or a war and a worse war. There is often the choice of no war. The drone war in Yemen, the drone war in Somalia, the drone war in Pakistan, these didn't replace ground wars, right? If we didn't have drones, we almost certainly would not have started with a massive ground war in Yemen. We would have had no war at all. And we and the people of Yemen would be far better off. The problem with the drones is they are alleged to be so easy and so inexpensive and so free of complications that there's no hesitation to go in a new country and start blowing people up with the drones. It's harder to get a bigger war started. But these drone wars are destabilizing these countries to such an extent that there's likely to be a major ground war. And so the idea of drones as a substitute for something worse is at least complicated by the fact that the drones are starting new wars that are having repercussions that aren't desired or predicted. The testimony that I referred to when I started speaking here of the young man from Yemen who went in and talked to the Senate, he said, when you blew those people up, including a man who could quite easily have been arrested, you know, you didn't have to have any form of war to capture or kill that man, you created a lot of enemies. You are making enemies out of all the people of Yemen. You are turning terrorists into heroes. You are recruiting members to terrorist groups. You are ruining our society and our morals in Yemen. And you killed innocent people, and you don't appear to give a damn because they weren't in Boston. And this is a young man who had his own grief for the people in Boston, who spent many years in the United States, who cares about Americans, just wants them to care about non-Americans too. And so the drone wars are, at the very least, incredibly counterproductive on their own terms. They make us less safe. They are not a good thing. The contention that they are a better thing than something else, than a massive ground war, is one that you can make. But we've just started this drone madness. And we have dozens of countries developing drones. And the drone wars are not going to be one-sided affairs. And the blowback is going to be intense. The money saved is not as rumored. You know, it takes more personnel to fly a drone than to fly a plane with a pilot in it. They malfunction, they crash, they kill people in friendly fire, they kill people in accidents, they kill people through blowback. We found out about a drone pilot operation in Afghanistan when somebody went in and blew the people up. We have drone pilot suicides back here. We have higher post-traumatic stress disorder among the drone pilots than the real pilots. You know, the guys who dress up in the pilot suits and sit at the desk and fly, you know, and then pass the sign on the way home that says, drive carefully, this is the most dangerous part of your day. These people suffer more trauma because they watch their victims for so long before they kill them. And that's not easy if you're not a sociopath. And this is creating warriors in our society who drive home to the suburbs every day. There's no pretense of any process of bringing them back into civilian life. They're in it and at war. And a target. The war on the globe, without limits in time or space, is also right down the street at the nearest drone operation. So there are a lot of drawbacks that are not extensively advertised. Coleman, and then Cindy, and then...
It relates to the question, and so far most of what I've been hearing as far as the drone wars, we're sending drones elsewhere, you know, around the world, you know, other countries. And a lot of what we've been seeing in some research, I mean, there are 110 drone bases, you know, scheduled in the United States. There are weapon ranges, people saturation surveillance over the entire continent. You know, they're using them. So when I really was curious. In work that you've done and going and protesting, you know, ending, the drone warfare, do you find arguments, do you find people that are beginning to get on, like, you know, we need to not just get rid of the drones that are used in fire and death, but, I mean, get rid of drones, because they're, you know, those wars will come home, like you begin to allude to them. They're using the drones now to kind of watch everything in water, you know, keep those illegal people at $5,000 at $7,000 a pop. I mean, so where's the argument? I'm sure that it's a holistic argument, but you know.
Well, there are a lot more people upset about drone use and potential drone use in the United States, I mean a lot more Americans, than about drone use abroad. And when we put together a coalition to pass a resolution in Charlottesville about domestic drone use, and the section I had in there about foreign drone use got stripped out, even though they had passed a resolution that more or less included it a year before. We had people with their NRA hats side by side with socialists, and it's a coalition that includes people who are just couldn't care less about killing foreigners, but don't want to be spied on. And so you have the libertarian argument around surveillance and around weaponized drones, often non-lethally weaponized drones that are in use in the United States. This is not future science fiction. Side by side with people whose motivation comes primarily from concern with the foreign use of drones as a model for the domestic use of drones. And so it's actually an opportunity to build the sort of coalition that I was talking about from the 20s, to get people concerned about offensive government behavior together with people concerned about similar related forms of government. And so the surveillance issues and the weaponized drones issues domestically help bring people into a peace movement that they've never heard of, and a peace movement that has a model of war to point to that looks like murder. Because when people fantasize about war on a battlefield with two teams in different colored jerseys, and they think about it as something other than murder. But when they think about war as a robot buzzing over people's houses and traumatizing their children and then blowing up a family, they get that that's murder, if they don't yet understand that all war is murder. And so, you know, of course, the problem is not the technology. If it's done with a missile, if it's done with a drone, if it's done on the ground, it's murder, and the problem is the murder, not the particular flavor of technology. But drone wars actually look like murder to a lot of people. And if that can help turn them against the war machine, that's good. Cindy, and then over here, and then way back there.
Well, first of all, we tried to get Saddam out and do something called shock and awe. And Saddam wasn't killed, but thousands of innocent Iraqis were killed. People email me, I mean, I was like one of the first people speaking out against Obama's drone usage 3 days after he was inaugurated. And I was slammed and told, give him a chance, Cindy. And so people will say, you're a moron, Cindy. I hear that all the time, by the way. You're a moron because if we use drones in Iraq, your son would be alive. And my answer is, well, the people of Iraq had the same exact existential right as my son did. Right? And so we tried to get Gaddafi out. We killed his 2-year-old granddaughter. You know, when we killed Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, we killed everybody in the restaurant. You know, and so saying the use of drones is better is like saying that our president has the right to judge who lives and who dies. Well, that's absolutely false. So what we're saying is, like Russia, just as like Russia could drop a Hellfire missile on the White House and be justified from a drone. Because we think because Obama thinks that person needs to be taken out without any due process, without any transparency. You know, of course it's better than killing 10,000 people, but how do you measure and how do you give value to all these lives? And so I guess I just want to say that the best thing to say would be no killing. Absolutely no killing. And the U.S. doesn't have the right to pick and choose which world leader or which terrorist it needs to take out. I just want to say one more thing. When the bombing happened in Boston, Obama said people who use bombs against innocent people are committing acts of terrorism. So Obama called himself a terrorist, right? So I'm just saying, yeah, it's okay to focus on these little individual issues, but we in the United States have to say there's 7 billion people on this planet. Every single person has the same right to live life and peace and whatever as every American does. You know, and that's how I think we start to get across to people.
Well, very well said. I completely agree. Obama, you don't give elected officials a chance. You compel elected officials to do what you want if it's going to be a government of, by, and for the people, not the elected officials. And anybody who thought Obama needed a chance, he damn well had a lot of them by now. And at some point we have to stop even thinking that he means well and acts completely contrary to everything we want because he's weak or he caves in. Whereas if it's a Republican, we have to think he proactively means ill. You know, we have to drop this idea that you have to look at the whole thing in a different frame, or that all you can do as activists, and I'm preaching very much to the choir here, but this common understanding that all you can do as activists is go to President Obama and say, we will re-elect you no matter what, and please stop killing people, and please end the wars, and please stop the corporate trade agreements, and please close Guantanamo, and please stop the corporate health, you know, stop doing everything you're doing. And, you know, what people now say to him, which is, we re-elected you, and now you must reverse everything you're doing, which is at least incomplete as an activist strategy.